my name is Jessica and I have no idea what I'm doing. Today I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and do the eyeshadow palette tag, basically showing off your collection in different ways with different categories. I've seen a few of these videos. I am definitely not the one who started it, but I'm going to do it for you. So the first category is my newest palette. Now don't judge me, some of these there are going to be multiple palettes per category. I could do it any way I want. I literally got 4 of them at the very same time. So I'm going to exclude this one simply because I have used it. This is the IBY Ocean Awakening palette. It looks like this. But these 3, the IBY Enlighten palette, the IBY Hollywood Glam palette, and the IBY Super Bloom palette, I have not used yet. So, oops, there goes the plastic. Here's what the Super Bloom palette looks like. And these will be in a video hopefully soon. This is the Hollywood Glam palette. And more plastic, here is the Enlighten palette. So I can't tell you my thoughts on those quite yet. The second category is my oldest palette. Now, let's talk about this. What constitutes as a palette? Does a trio count as a palette? Because if so, my oldest palette is this one here, the Wet n Wild Sweet as Candy trio. Don't panic, that's not mold in there. It's just that I've sprayed it to clean it and then I don't wipe the excess spray away. So that's that one. And this is the old packaging. You can tell now it comes with a transition shade. I used to love this. I used to use it a lot. Actually, you know what? This might be my second one, but it's still older than the rest of my stuff. But if a trio does not count as a palette, then it's going to be this one, pretty similar, the Wet n Wild I'm His Breezy eyeshadow palette. I consider a palette to be 5 shadows and above. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one makes my cut for sure. Same thing, it's not mold, it's clean. I just don't wipe off the excess because I'm lazy. But, I mean, are we surprised that I have this? Look at all the blues. So here I would say is my oldest eyeshadow palette. And I enjoy this one. I have better quality blues now, but I mean, these are still good. I haven't used it in a while though, because I've been using other blues. Okay, most expensive palette. I have not paid full retail value for practically any of my palettes. So I'm going literally by the price that the palette is usually listed by, not what I paid for it or anything else. So when I go by that, my most expensive is the Too Faced Then and Now palette. And I think paying anything more than the price of this palette for an eyeshadow palette is nuts. I think it was too much for this palette, really. I mean, I enjoy this, but I just wish there were more colorful mattes to play with in here. But it is also Too Faced. I should be happy that there's a bright green, bright pinks, purples, and these beautiful blues in here. For most affordable palette, I can remember the most affordable palette I ever bought, but I don't still have it. It was by, I think, LA Girl, LA Colors, LA Splash, something with an LA in it. And it was like maybe about 10 shades. I had found it in one of those Dollar General, Family Dollar, something like that kind of stores, and it was $1 and change. But I don't have that anymore, so it no longer counts. If you count a trio as an eyeshadow palette, this one is my least expensive palette, aka most affordable. This was $2.99. If you don't consider that a palette, I can move on up to these guys, the e.l.f. Bite-Size palettes in Acai You and Hot Jalapeno. These were $3 each. But for pans, if you still don't consider those a palette, then my most affordable palettes are going to have to be these Wet n Wild 10-pan palettes in Stop Playing Safe and VI Purple. They were $4.99 each. And this one I'm not thrilled with. This one I like though. Yes, I wish it had more colorful mattes in it, but the mattes are of good quality and I like the shimmers as well. If you want to see me try out these, go check out my video. But overall, wasn't happy with this one, was happy with this one. Next category is my everyday palette. I literally do not have an everyday palette. Every day I switch to a new palette, and if you're looking at everyday to mean neutral, wearable, I mean, we all know that I don't follow that. To me, bright blue is wearable. So I'm going to interpret that as the most neutral palette I have, because I think most people interpret everyday as neutral, and that would be the Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette. There's my Thomas the Tank Engine, Peter Pan, and Shark pillows. And there's my notes. So yeah, I think this is probably the most neutral palette that I have, which is funny because when I do go for neutrals, I'm more likely to gravitate toward this palette for them. Because really the only thing not neutral in here is the pink, but it can be sheared out to be a neutral, I guess, and this blue. This is one of my favorite of the Too Faced palettes. I don't know why they discontinued this. Probably because I liked it, and usually when I like something, other people don't like it as much. My most colorful palette is the next category, and I'm gonna have to say it's one of these three. You tell me. Either my Morphe 35B, I still have this, still love it. Very upset they discontinued it. The BH Cosmetics Take Me Back to Brazil palette, which I'm not crazy about this one. I like the colors, but the quality is just not where I want it to be. And then this one here, my EYN 42 Brights palette. I mean, I have a lot of palettes and a lot of them are colorful. As for this one specifically though, I mean, I like the mattes, but the shimmers are not great quality in my opinion. They're pretty colors, but the formula just isn't there. As for my smallest palette, which is the next category, again, if you consider this a palette, it could be this one. If you consider this and this a palette, it could be these. This one's definitely a palette, it could be that one. But if you consider this one a palette, it could also be this one. This is the Lancome Paris, what was this? Color Design Palette. Sensational Effects Eyeshadow. Oh, Smooth Hold, that's just a description. This is in Tea Party Cool. I think there was also Tea Party Warm. This was a gift to me for my birthday a few years back from a friend. If you look at it, it really is quite tiny. Really what it is 4 eyeshadows and a blush, but I mean, I think this is kind of like a tiny palette, right? For my biggest palette, I have quite a few big palettes, but I'm gonna go with this one, the NYX Beauty School Dropout palette. It's large this way, it's large this way, and when you open this gigantic thing up, it's also large this way. This was another birthday gift that it was given to me not by the same friend, it was given to me by 2 friends, but it was the same birthday. And originally I really liked it. Now my eyeshadow formula tastes have changed, so I don't use it that much anymore, and I have other things I like better. But I do continue to go in here for this burgundy blush shade here, and these 2 highlighters here, like a pearly white and a peach. The next category is the palette with the best memory, and that's going to have to be the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. Smells so good, even after all these years. So this guy here is 3 years old, and this is the one with my best memory because this is the first high-end palette I ever bought. I remember my aunt and uncle had given me money for either Christmas or birthday, and I had decided that it was finally time to buy my first high-end palette. I was really interested in this one, so that's what I spent the money on. And I just remember getting it in the mail, opening it up, and holding it like this. Like it was going to, I don't know, break or combust or something, because I had never held such expensive makeup before. And, you know, so much of it at once. I mean, not that I like throw my palettes around now, but, you know, I hold them like a normal person. I kind of just do that, or I, you know, put them on my dresser or something. But yeah, I remember just being like It's so special, it's so sacred, it's so expensive and worth more money than I am. The next category is a palette worth the hype. This one again, sorry. Even for me, someone who loves color, this does have some color in it. It does have a lot of neutrals as well, but they play well together. The colors in here are nice. The smell literally just makes me happy every time. I feel like whenever I do a neutral look that's not from this palette, I feel like I'm not really myself, but even when I do a neutral look from this palette, I still somehow feel like myself. And I think that's probably a combination of the color selection, the quality, the scent, and probably the memory attached to it as well. So the next category is palettes that are not worth the hype. I have 4 here. I mean, I could have picked more. I do have some palettes that I really don't like. Don't judge me for not decluttering them. But this is just about not being worth the hype. Keep in mind though that these are pretty subjective. So the first one is the Riviera palette from ABH. Is anyone surprised here? I like the colors. I do think they could have done a few other things. She. For example, a dark blue in here. I mean, I think they kind of overdid it with the peach and the pink. They could have done some other colors. But I do like the shimmers in here. I really, really do. And that's why I didn't return this. But the mattes, I just cannot work with them. They do not blend. And it frustrates me a lot. So to me, that one is not worth the hype. I think this one's even more subjective. The Colourpop It's My Pleasure palette. I want true purples and blue purples. This does not come out like this. This kind of comes out like that, but that's one purple of a palette that's supposed to be purple, and it's really not. I mean, the quality, it's not bad. I do feel like it's a little lower than other Colourpop eyeshadows I've tried out, but I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, I guess the color selection disappointed me. To me, this is not a purple palette. Another one was the What's the Tea Iced Tea palette from The Balm. I mean, this was kind of a mistake on my part. It's too neutral. I should have known that, but I got attracted by, you know, the blues, the pinks, and the fact that you could change the way they looked with these primers. The primers crease on me, so I just really did not need this in my collection. I don't really use it. And the last one in that category is the BH Cosmetics Zodiac Love Signs palette. I really enjoy the first one, the original Zodiac palette, but this one, I did a video testing it out, and I just feel like the quality is not the same as the first one. I feel like the shimmers don't come out as shimmery. I feel like the mattes are harder to blend. It's just not what I expected, and I was disappointed because of the quality of the first one. Next category is a favorite palette from a favorite brand. Don't judge me. And then my most used palette, I don't think I have one. So I picked out 3 that are probably in that category. Sweet Peach again. I'm gonna say also Morphe 35B. I haven't used it now in a while, but there was definitely some periods of time where I was using it a lot. And then I would say maybe this one, the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. I love this one. This one is in another category coming up. So I added a couple categories from categories that other YouTubers added, you know, the real makeup gurus. Emily Noel 83 added the Best Dupe category, and I picked the Face Candy Atlantis palette, which looks like this. I mean, this is kind of a dupe for the Tarte Icy Betch palette. If you go way back on my channel, I did compare the two. I like this one better. This one had more variety in color, and I thought the quality was better. I really enjoy this palette. I haven't used it in a while though, because I've been testing out so many new things lately, But I'm really sad that they don't make this anymore. I think this brand doesn't even exist anymore. Same goes for this one. Unfortunately, this is the Bad Habit Luna palette, which is a dupe for the ABH Norvina palette. I think the shades are pretty close in color, and depending on which shadow it is, I feel like some of them are better quality in this one. So for example, this shimmery pink one here, the shimmery pink in the ABH Norvina palette I felt like was a little crumbly and dry, whereas this one is smoother. But see this one here, I like the equivalent of this purple in the Norvina palette better than this. So it really depends on the shade, but I do think that you get a very comparable look between the two. It's just that they don't make this anymore, sadly. Again, the brand is no longer a thing. Another category that Emily Noel 83 added is palettes you rediscovered by doing this video. And the palettes in that category are the BYS Peach palette. I bought this maybe 3 years ago and I barely used it. I really forgot I even had this. Oops, spoiler alert, here's the other palette. The colors are pretty, the quality isn't bad. I don't know, I guess it just got lost in my collection and I have things that I like better. And when you put this on the eyes, there isn't as much contrast between the shades as you might think. So I guess that's why I don't use it really, but maybe I should. And then the other one is the Clean Color Wicked Plum Nude Eyeshadow Palette. I have no idea why they call this a nude eyeshadow palette. It's not. And basically the same things I said about the BYS Peach palette go for this one here. I also watched Angeshka's video, and the category she added was your most underrated palette. And I have two here. One of them is the Weekend Festival palette from BH Cosmetics. The quality is excellent. I think the color selection is great. Like, this was definitely hyped up at the time, but I feel like the hype fell very quickly and then they discontinued it, or maybe vice versa. Either way, I think they totally should have kept this around. I feel like the follow-up to this palette, it was also nice, but I feel like this one is superior. And that other one was the Color Festival palette, but it didn't make it into a category, so I'm not showing it today. And the other one in that category is the IBY Poolside palette. I've been talking about this one in one of my new videos. I don't know if it's up yet or if it's upcoming, but even though I haven't used this in a while, again because I've been trying out some new stuff, I really enjoy this palette. I think the colors are great. I do think they could add a couple more colors to make the looks a little more cohesive and have more contrast, but the quality is great, the colors are great, price is great. And I think this was hyped up a little bit when it came out, but the hype shouldn't have died down. It's great. None of this is sponsored, by the way. Someone please sponsor me so I can get some money back for all these palettes. Send help. And then last but not least, I'm adding a category myself, a palette or palettes that should have been up your alley, but just weren't. And one of those is going to be the Too Faced Life's a Festival palette. This palette never should have been discontinued. The colors are beautiful. The formula is fantastic. I think this formula is the best that Too Faced has ever come out with, or at least in the time that I started buying their makeup. So within the last 3 years, but I have tried things that came out before then, like the Sugar Pop palette, the Peanut Butter and Honey palette, or Jelly palette, Cat Eyes, etc. So I think this has the best quality overall, but the reason it's in this category is because I don't use it that much, and I'm surprised. I'm kind of confused as to why not. I mean, first of all, I just have way too much makeup, but for being a colorful palette from my favorite high-end brand, why don't I use it that much? My guess is because it only has 3 mattes, and I feel like they don't really go with some of the looks that I would want to create, or that I've tried to create, but I either had to make do with what I had or use another palette in conjunction with this, whether it was Too Faced or not. So for example, I usually would not pair this matte, or this matte with a green. I would want a dark green matte. This purple here is a bit too mid-tone for what I would normally want with this turquoise here. I would say either a darker purple or a teal or a dark blue. There just wasn't a lot of contrast between these two shades and some of these shades. So I'm thinking that's why I don't use it as much as one would think I would. And the other one I put in that category is the Colourpop Blue Moon palette. I know, it's blue eyeshadow. Why don't I like it? Why don't I use it that much? Because I feel like if this palette came out years ago, before I got to try so many different things, I'm sure I would have flipped out over this. But I have so many other blue eyeshadows that I just like better. And some of the tones in here aren't, like, say, my favorite blue tones. I think it's nice that you get a couple different ones, but I don't know. It just doesn't excite me the way that other blue eyeshadows do. I was kind of disappointed by this, and I can't exactly put my finger on it. I think I did a video on this too. If I did, that's basically what I said. There are other blue eyeshadows that I just like better, formula-wise and color-wise. Alright, that was a lot of filming and palette showing. I hope you guys liked the video, and I hope you let me know what else you would like to see. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you have a good day no matter what it is you're doing. Bye! See you next time!